A gardener found his broad bean plants withered and brown, yet each still held pods filled with living seeds. "Why cling to life when you are dead?" he asked them. The plants whispered, "We are not clinging to life, we are passing it on." And so the gardener learned, never mistake an ending for the end. I wonder how often we mistake an ending for the end, just because we can't see what comes next yet. I think we're quite bad at endings. We like things to finish neatly, a beginning, a middle, and an end. An allotment rarely has such tidy boundaries. One crop finishes, and you clear it away. Something else goes in. The soil gets turned over, fed or left alone for a while, but then, before you know it, you're waiting for something else to come up again. You can never really stand still here. There's always something to sow, something to harvest, something that needs cutting back, or even something you've completely forgotten about. I like that part. Nothing stays for very long, but nothing is entirely separate either. Last year's plants end up in the compost. The compost goes back into the soil. The soil grows something else. It's all a bit less tidy than beginning, middle, end, and probably much more interesting. And now this patch is empty again. It's one of the weird things about an allotment. You can spend months maintaining something, and then suddenly it's gone. There's a strange compression of time in gardening. Weeks of watching, watering, waiting, reduced to a few minutes of clearing up. And yet, when you're growing something, you never really know how quickly it's happening. You see it every few days, so the changes are almost invisible, and then suddenly you look at it and think, where did all that time go? It makes the whole place feel as though it's moving at 2 speeds at once. There's a rogue potato plant growing where the beans were. I decided to leave it. I wonder if I'll get anything off it before the season ends. The netting has to come off these parsnips now. They've outgrown it, and I think they need the space. The weeds haven't been too bad here this year. I think the lack of rain has probably got something to do with that. A dry spell can change what grows, what doesn't, what needs your attention and what you can leave alone. And then when the rain does come, you're suddenly dealing with a completely different allotment. My onions have been growing in little clumps, and I think it's time they came up. I'm starting to wonder if leaving them any longer is doing more harm than good. So this is what they've been doing all this time. While I'm here, I fancy pulling up a parsnip. There's not much foliage, but I can see the odd root top poking through the soil. Let's see what we've got. Oh dear, I was fooled by the tip. The rest of them can stay where they are. This whole vegetable area is tidy now. I've still got those onions to sort out and see what I've actually got. These are just ordinary onions that I grew in clumps. The idea was to use them more like spring onions. This one's got a soggy bottom. That doesn't look right. Is this white rot? I'm not quite sure whether I've grown onions badly or grown exactly the onions I meant to grow. There's one thing I've been quietly putting off in the greenhouse. I've been giving my aubergine far too many chances, hoping it might still surprise me. But look at it. It reminds me of Miss Havisham from Great Expectations, still in her old decaying wedding dress. I think it's time to put the old girl out of her misery. But first, I notice the chillies are ready to pick. I'm always a bit impatient with chillies. Once they start changing colour, I find myself checking them every time I come in here. And then, when they're finally ready enough to pick, I realise I've spent weeks thinking about something that takes about 2 minutes to harvest. It's weird how often gardening has these tiny events that occupy far more space in your mind than they do in reality. These are cayennes, which I like because they're fairly thin-walled and dry quite readily. I'll probably string some of these up and dry them, and the rest will go into cooking. They're not particularly hot by chilli standards, but they've got enough heat to make 1 or 2 go a long way. Let's get Miss Havisham out of here. With the aubergine gone, the place suddenly feels quite different. The greenhouse is entering that awkward bit of the year where nothing quite knows whether it's finished or not. There are still plants producing, but I'm also having to clear things out and rearrange the space. It's a strange halfway point. I'm not really growing for summer anymore, but I'm not quite preparing for winter either. I don't mind it though. The greenhouse has just become less about squeezing everything in and more about deciding what's worth keeping. giving these sleepers another coat. It's not exactly the most exciting job on the allotment, but I do like the way these little jobs accumulate. You do one thing here, another thing there, and eventually you look around and realize the place has changed without you really noticing. And I suppose that's the other side of having an allotment. There's always something that needs looking after, even when nothing's growing there. There's always something unfinished here. Something to come back to, something to look forward to, and of course, some things that didn't quite work out. And that's why I'll always keep coming back. I hope you've enjoyed spending a little time here with me today. Take care, and I'll see you again soon.